All right. Hey, goodness to you. It's Sporty King. And you know, I always say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But isn't it great to have good in front of your salutation? Look, you know, I always like to come on a couple of minutes early to give the technology a chance to catch up with people. I try to give that as a tech tip as well. If you say you're coming on at one, come on before one. Nobody's sitting there waiting for 1 o'clock for you to come on. They're doing something else. So give them a chance to close down some files, get that last sip of water, go to the bathroom, whatever, you know. So that's what I like to do. So just, you know, as you come in, if you're watching the video, yeah, you can forward it, fast forward it a whole two minutes if you need to, because we got less than 2 minutes for today's message. But that's just a tech tip for you because we should always be sharing what our gift is whenever we can. And this is one of mine. Bam. So anyway, let me know. Put in the thread where you watching from. Again, even if you're watching the video, I need to know who I'm talking to. It makes a difference. So we've got less than a minute to go for today's message, and that'll be coming at the top of the hour, as I like to say, since we're on different time zones. You never know. That's where the goodness, by the way, comes in morning, afternoon, and evening. You never know. All right. Cool. Okay. We got less than 1 minute today for today's message. So I hope everything's going well with you. I'm in Dayton, and you see in my background, in Dayton, Ohio. You know, and this is another one of my tips. I never tell anybody where I'm going. I tell them where I am and when I leave. I never tell them where I'm going. You know, you just have to think about stuff like that because you don't never know. You never know when somebody's targeting you. So in these days, you know, it's not being paranoid. It's being wise because you just never know. All right, because if you're spreading the right message, somebody's against you. You be ready for that. Okay. So I thank you for the love. Let me know where you're coming in from. We got less than 30 seconds for today's message. Let me know where you're watching from. And if it's going to be your first time, because I saw a lot of people wishing me a happy Thanksgiving. I said, come on back for some of this food for thought. So we'll see if any of them came back. And if they didn't, I ain't mad at them. You can always get it later. That's the beauty. When people say, oh, I missed your live broadcast, I'm okay with that. It's the seed is planted and it's there for you to enjoy the harvest. So it's 1 o'clock in the East Coast. Let's get moving. So welcome to Glue Wednesday. I call it Glue Wednesday because so often we hear people say that Wednesday is hump day. Well, that kind of comes from old school. I say old school rules. See, back in the days, we used to just say people work Monday to Friday and the weekend. We didn't have the term flex time, but there's always been flex time because we've always had the hospitality industry. That's the hotels, the restaurants. You know, you've got public transportation. There's always somebody who doesn't work Monday to Friday, somebody who worked Thursday to Tuesday or Thursday to Monday. So it's always been there. But I decided to just put a little positive twist on it because hump has to me the sound of the need to get over. So I decided that Wednesday is the middle of a traditional 7-day week, regardless of when you work. So it's the day the week keeps the week beginning and the week end together. So Wednesday is the glue. And then it puts me in one of my favorite poses, a prayerful pose. So I decided that we don't need to worry about humping. We need to worry about getting it, keeping it together. And then glue is GLUE. God's love undoes everything. Not that God's love will tear things apart, but that which has been torn apart, God's love will undo that tear and bring it back together for you. So that's what Glue Wednesday is all about. And today I'm going to be continuing my quick thanks series, THANKS, where each message of each of the messages will focus on one of the letters of the broadcast series. Now, my affirmation for thanks is THANKS. The heart always needs kindred spirits. And you'll find that in my book, Affirmations. Now, affirmations I created because so often we hear people using acronyms. Acronyms just add a word to the letter. But I make the word come alive with the words that I add, and they become affirmations. So thanks is an acronym that becomes an affirmation. The heart always needs kindred spirits. You always need people in your corner, but you've got to have the right heart so that they can get there and stay there. And my book affirmations have over 240 different affirmations that you can use for a theme for yourself to keep yourself going, or however you need to uplift and keep somebody's spirit going. I always have what I call also a guiding scripture. Today's message, my guiding scripture is Luke 24:31. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. So, along with suggested words from my co authors, Rogercarole Rogers gave me the word kinetic, Daphne Francis gave me the word knowledge, and Ramona Hopkins gave me the word Kaizen, or maybe it could be Kaizen. It's a Japanese word. You'll figure it out. But so today, the letter K is my featured letter. All right. And that's helped me come up with the title for today's message, which is called Break the Bread. Break the bread. But first, let me introduce not a word, but a term that you might not be familiar with. And that's the one that I almost missed, that I mispronounced, and that's Kaizen. Kaizen is a term that refers to ongoing or continuous improvement. The definition of Kaizen comes from two Japanese words, Kai, which means change, and Zen, which means good. The Japanese philosophy was first introduced by Toyota back in the 1980s and has since been adopted by thousands of companies around the globe. Now, the Kaizen method is a step-by-step guide to continuous improvement. I actually love how it correlates with what many are familiar with, and that is those are SMART goals. Here are the 5 steps of Kaizen, and they're mirroring SMART goals. Step 1, identifying areas for improvement. Is the first step, and it's to identify areas for improvement. Well, I'll just say, wait, let me give you the 5 things first. Identify areas for improvement, analyze their current process, develop solutions, implement the solutions, and evaluate the solutions. SMART goals: be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, or time sensitive. So when you look at identify areas for improvement, be specific. Analyze the current process. Is it measurable? Develop solutions. Is it attainable? Implement the solutions. It's relevance. And then evaluate the results. Time sensitive. And so if you go back down to SMART goals, see, specific is, what am I going to do? Why is this important to me? Be specific about your goals. Are they measurable? How will I measure my success? Am I going to see if my specific goal is being measured in days, hours, weeks, months? How will I know when I have achieved my goal? Is it measurable? And then attainable. What will I do to achieve this goal? Will I stop eating? Will I start going to a different place? Will I stop hanging out with certain people? How will I accomplish this goal? Is it attainable? And then relevant. Now, sometimes people have used the R in SMART goals as realistic. I like relevant better because it's asking, is this goal worthwhile in terms of relevant to who I am? Am I making a change to please someone else? Or am I making a change to please myself? Why is this goal worthwhile? How will achieving it help me? Does this goal fit into my values? So whether you use relevant or realistic, that becomes the key, is how is this goal something that's going to add to your life so that you can add to the life of the ones you love. And finally, the T is for time sensitive. When will I accomplish my goal? How long will I give myself? Remember, the goal is about you. So how long are you giving yourself? I want to lose 10 pounds, and you're going to give yourself 10 days, a pound a day? No, how about giving yourself 5 weeks, lose 2 pounds a week? Something like that. But that's what you have to think about. And so that's how I like that the two compare. Meanwhile, I did have an idea last week of what kinetic meant, yet I want to be more precise so this correlation to the message will be even clearer today. You see, kinetic energy is the energy an object or a particle has due to its motion. For example, a car traveling down a highway or a person walking down a sidewalk have kinetic energy. The word kinetic comes from the Greek word kinesis, which means motion. It could be kinesis, but it means motion. So let me know where you're viewing in from. I see somebody. Let me know where you're coming in from, okay? But the motivation for today's message came from my pastor last week, Stephen Furtick with Elevation Church. His sermon this Sunday, where he used one of his fabulous graphics. he showed how the people and the disciples thought Jesus' crucifixion was the end. And it became today's guiding scripture. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. So here's the scene before that, before Luke 24 and 31. The scene is 24 and 30. It takes place when Jesus walks 7 miles with two men who invited him to stay with them for the night because they enjoyed the knowledge that he shared about the man who was crucified, whom they were mourning. The whole time they did not know that he was telling them about himself. Yet, once they sat down to eat, in Luke 24 and 30, it says, when he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Enter my guiding scripture. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. And now I want you to listen to Pastor Stephen as he unfolds that message.
And began to give it to them. Everybody shout this word. Then, and only then. You mean they heard a master's level class from the master and they still didn't get it? No. Then and only then. After the bread had been broken, then their eyes were opened. I'll say it again, in case there's been a breaking in your life lately. After the bread had been broken, then their eyes had been opened. But not before the bread had been broken. Not when he spoke it. When he broke it. Something about the breaking of the bread helped them to see who he really was. Because now they realized he wasn't just killed on the cross. He gave his life on the cross. He wasn't just hung there by humans. He was sent there by God. He wasn't just dying physically. He was paying the price spiritually. And it was only after the breaking that the revelation came. There are some revelations that only come after the breaking. They don't come before. They only come after. They don't come before you go through. They only come after. But for everybody who's been broken lately, I got good news. After the breaking comes an opening. May your eyes be open. May your ears be open. May your road be open. May your Red Sea part. Say it out loud. This is not the end. Give God praise for it. This is not the end.
And let me pause that for a second to say thank you, Bridget, and welcome. Excuse me. And I know that your faith is the Muslim faith. And that's what I like about this broadcast, is that how we share. You have to learn about others people's faith so that you can understand why and how you choose yours. But sometimes also listen to the analogies. This is what I really like about Furtick, the analogies, because isn't somebody broken regardless of their religion, their faith, their sex, their gender, their part of the country? So that's what the key is for me as you continue to listen to the message. And here comes the part that I like the most.
For a moment it looked like it was over. But this is, maybe I should write it on the board, y'all. Seem like you need some extra help. This is not the end. Say it to your neighbor. This is not the end. Tell him you can do better than him anyway. This is not the end. Tell him you are bigger than that place anyway. This is not the end. It wasn't ready for you anyway. This is not the end. You couldn't handle it back then, but this is not the end. Now put my scripture back on the screen and I'm going to bring this thing full circle today for somebody who has been standing at a funeral and weeping over a loss and weeping over a regret and weeping over a mistake and punishing yourself over a mistake and saying that this is the end and thinking that this is the end, and the enemy has been telling you that this is the end and you will never recover from this and nobody will ever love you after this and there is no way back from this and you cannot climb out of this and you cannot recover from this and there is no redemption in this and there is no light coming and there is no help coming for everybody who the enemy has been telling you it's the end. Give me verse 31, please. Then the Lord spoke to me and said, this is not the end. That's it. Because there's going to be a then. There's going to be a then. There's going to be a then. You hear me today? I can't put my faith on this word.
There's going to be a then. There's always going to be a then, not the end. And that's why you have to break the bread. You've also heard me say it before as faith, F-A-I-T-H, feeling as if there's hope. The only thing you cannot do is give up. And haven't you, if you've been in my live audience before, haven't you heard me say this cliche? Because most people can finish this. Well, they say when one door closes, and most people will say another will open. And then I give it the Sporty King remix. When one door closes, go for the windows. Go for the windows, because there's usually more windows than there are doors. And haven't you made a lot of good decisions? But we focus on the bad ones, thinking that if I focus on this bad one, I'll make it go away. But what you focus on, you ferment. And so how about focusing on the strengths? How about focusing on the good decisions you make so that you can duplicate those and replicate those and make them get stronger to where they push out the bad ones? It's never the end. Your faith has to keep getting stronger. Your faith has to have a kinetic energy, always believing that you are heading for another blessing when you truly embrace the 4 words in the Lord's Prayer, which is, thy will be done. See, everybody says that because we grow up learning it in, just in the rhythm. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But thy will be done is hard, because once God does something, we don't understand it. And then there's the frustration. So that's a hard 4 words to think about. Let me see what Bridget's saying there. People don't understand that there are more similarities than differences, between Christianity and Islam. We believe in one God, the prophets. That God reveals books, the hereafter, judgment day, angels, and the devil and destiny. Yeah, thank you, Bridget. And I'm definitely, please, y'all read that. There's more. We have more in common than against. Religion is a choice. And so, that's why you need to get your messengers so that you make the choice that works best for you. Didn't we talk about that with the goal setting? And because then once you make the choice, then you have that connection and that passion to it, and then you deliver it the way it should be delivered. And then whoever your followers are, because you're somebody's messenger. You've heard me say that before. Choose your messengers carefully and recognize that you are carefully being chosen as a messenger. And so as you become somebody's messenger, where will you end up leading them? That's something that you have to deal with. So you got to get your right message. It can't be a half-baked message. Okay. And it should not be a message that makes a total right or wrong. Well, because I said this is the way it goes. No, it has to be a message that has room for discovery. And then once you have the discovery, you can stand harder on a certain message than you do on another one. But you have to make room for discovery so that you can have a reason for standing fast to what you believe in. And then, you know what? You don't have to keep everybody in your life who does not believe in your message. There's so many things we have to do as grown-ups. And that's why I call it grown-up stuff. But you got to know what you believe in. That's why your faith is important. So let's make that faith that kinetic energy. And when you do, whether you call it Kaizen or SMART goals, then what will happen? You can identify specific areas for improvement and break the bread. You can analyze the measurable current process and break the bread. You can develop attainable solutions and break the bread. You can implement the relevant solutions or the realistic solutions and break the bread. And finally, you can evaluate the time sensitive results and break the bread. So let me adjust our guiding scripture so that today can be another one of your thens. There'll always be a then. Okay? Then may your eyes be opened and you recognize him, and he will never disappear from your sight. November 27th, 2024. That's the adjustment. And more importantly, remember to open your eyes and open your heart in order to give true thanks. Have a wonderfully safe Thanksgiving season beyond the 24 hours on a man made calendar, because that's what it's all about. You heard me say it last week. Instead of saying happy Thanksgiving, I got myself in the habit of saying have a safe Thanksgiving, because it's not a happy time for everybody. It happens to also be when my mother first got sick and began her journey to her closeout. She got sick Thanksgiving and she died in January. And so it's not a wonderful thought for everybody, but we learn to live with it. I had a good laughing conversation with my nephew today, Gary, and we talked about the first. Remember last week when I talked about the first? And then something I said to him, because I was saying to him, there's a first of everything, including a first time that you do something again. Okay, so so it's always about living these first. That's what you're thankful. It's not about that man-made calendar. It's not about that celebration that's written on the wall. It's about what are you actually thankful for. Let's let the man-made calendar make us pause and think about reasons to be thankful. But we don't have to do it only on November, the fourth Thursday in November, because that's not really when the thanks came in. That was when one of the tragic parts of our American history actually came in. So let's make sure that we're giving thanks every day. On my Friday broadcast, Gift Friday, I say TGIT, thank God it's today. And then TGIT, thank God it's tonight. Because I'm having the blessing to wake up, go through a whole day, and get the chance to go to sleep and do it again. That's what I'm giving thanks for. So have a safe Thanksgiving season. And so I thank my co-authors, Rogercarole, Daphne, and Ramona, because their words help fuel today's message. If you'd like to be a co-author of next week's message, I'll be focusing on the S in thanks. You don't have to have a word that has to do anything with thanks. It only has to start with an S. And that's my creative talent and gift to make it move into the word and into the message. Because you see the three words that they had, right? They didn't necessarily have anything to do with each other. Kinetic, knowledge, and Kaizen. Okay, they just gave me words that began with a K. So put it in a thread, whether you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, a word that begins with the letter S. And if you're watching on my email, put it in an email message for me, and I'll get you in as one of my co-authors next week. But one thing is for sure, I want to just thank you. Thank you for joining me for going through with another storm, because to me, every day is a storm. Okay, so we went through another storm, and in the process, we have to deal with glue moments to remind us that God's love undoes everything. Not that it will tear it apart, but that has been torn apart, we'll glue it back together. Because we don't need the hump. We need to keep finding ways to keep it together. We do that every Wednesday here on Glue Wednesday, where you get to sit and shine with me, Sporty King. And I absolutely love it when you come on. And thank you, Bridget, for joining me today. One of my good friends from years ago in Chicago. And thank you for that. I'm going to put that up again because I think people need to see that, the clarification, because sometimes people use religion to separate you. Sometimes people use our political system to separate ourselves. We come up with all these reasons for separation instead of coming up with reasons for togetherness. Because you don't have, I always like to say, right depends on whether you're on the 6 side of the 9 or the 9 side of the 6. You don't have to be right. I don't have to be right. I have to be sporty. So I have to know what I believe in so that I can act accordingly, because I don't know where the seeds from my belief are being dropped and harvest when it will come. I don't know that. I don't have control over that. I have to make sure I'm doing what's right for me. This feels pretty right. So thanks again, Bridget, for your comment. Anybody, even if you're watching a videotape, drop your comments in the thread so that somebody else can be blessed by them. And I always like to give it a 10-second countdown because this is a delay in the technology before I close it out. So thanks again for joining me for Glue Wednesday. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stay safe and God bless you. Peace.